The Galactic Union Academy was the most famous school in all of known space. Students came from hundreds of different planets to learn about alien life forms. The Academy floated in the darkness between stars, a massive station made of metal and glass. Inside its walls, young beings from across the galaxy studied together, ate together, and sometimes screamed together when their lessons got too scary. Today was going to be one of those screaming days. Instructor walked into the observation chamber with his 6 legs clicking against the floor. He was an insect-like creature, tall and thin, with big compound eyes that could see in many directions at once. His students sat in rows of seats that curved around the room like a half circle. There were 37 of them, and they came in all shapes and sizes. Some had tentacles. Some had fur. Some were made of something that looked like living crystal. And then there was Park. She sat in the middle row, looking very small compared to her classmates. She had dark hair that she kept in a ponytail, brown eyes, and skin that was a warm beige color. She was human, and she was the first of her kind to ever attend the academy. The other students always kept their distance from her. They had heard stories about humans, terrible stories. Humans came from Earth, a planet that the Galactic Union had classified as a Category 9. This meant it was one of the most dangerous places in the entire galaxy. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The water fell from the sky in deadly sheets, and the creatures that lived there were nightmares made of flesh and bone. Did not think Earth was that bad. She missed it, actually. She missed the smell of rain and the taste of her mother's cooking, but she understood why the aliens were afraid. To them, she was basically a monster who had somehow learned to wear nice clothes and speak politely. Instructor raised one of his front legs to get everyone's attention. The room went quiet. "Today," he said, his mouth parts clicking as he spoke, "we will study a creature from not just any. We will study a creature from Earth itself." A wave of gasps moved through the room. Several students made sounds of fear. One of them, a blob-like creature started to shake so much that pieces of himself fell onto the floor. Sat up in her seat. Her heart began to beat faster, but not from fear. She was curious. What kind of Earth animal had they found? "This creature," continued, "is one of the most perfect predators ever recorded. It is responsible for the extinction of over 40 species on it. It has claws that can cut through flesh like knives. It has teeth designed for killing. Its eyes can see in almost complete darkness. It moves in complete silence. And its reflexes are so fast that prey never sees death coming." The students were now holding onto each other in terror. Even the brave ones looked pale, or whatever color their species turned when they were scared. "We captured this specimen at great cost," said. 3 of our best retrieval specialists were injured, but science demands sacrifice. Today, you will see what true danger looks like." He pressed a button on his control pad. A door at the side of the room slid open with a soft hiss. 2 workers in thick protective suits slowly pushed a large container into the room. The container was made of reinforced glass, the kind that could stop bullets. Inside, something moved. The students screamed, fainted, and splashed onto the floor. A bird-like student flew up to the ceiling and refused to come down. A large reptilian student made a smell so bad that everyone near him started crying, but did not scream. She leaned forward, her eyes wide. Her mouth slowly curved into a smile. Inside the container, sitting on a small cushion, was an orange and white cat. It was a tabby, probably about 3 years old. It had a round face, a pink nose, and long whiskers that twitched as it looked around the room. Its tail swayed back and forth in a lazy motion. It looked bored. "Is that," whispered her voice full of wonder, "a cat?" The students near her heard and looked at her with horror. The human knew what this monster was. She even had a name for it. This only proved how dangerous her species truly was. Instructor pointed at the container with one long arm. "Observe how it watches us. See how its eyes track every movement. It is calculating. planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The cat yawned, its small mouth opened wide, showing tiny pointed teeth. The student screamed again. "Those fangs," said gravely, "are designed for one purpose and one purpose only: killing." The cat licked its paw and rubbed it against its face. Could not believe what she was seeing. She wanted to laugh, but she knew that would be rude. These aliens were truly terrified of a house cat, a regular, normal, everyday cat. The kind that slept on couches and knocked things off tables and sometimes brought dead birds as presents. She looked at the cat and the cat looked back at her. For a moment their eyes met. The cat blinked slowly, which knew was a sign of trust and affection. Her heart melted. The poor thing was probably so confused and scared, trapped in this glass box while strange aliens pointed at it and screamed. She wanted to hold it. She wanted to pet its soft fur and tell it that everything would be okay. She did not know it yet, but very soon she would get that chance. And when she did, everything at the Galactic Union Academy would change forever. Instructor continued his lecture with the serious tone of someone explaining how to survive a war. He walked around the glass container, keeping a safe distance of at least 3 meters at all times. His compound eyes never left the creature inside. "Notice the way it breathes," he said. "Slow, controlled. This is the breathing pattern of a hunter at rest. It is conserving energy, waiting. The moment we show weakness, it will attack." Inside the container, the orange cat had curled into a ball and closed its eyes. A soft, rumbling sound came from its body. "What is that noise?" a student asked in a shaking voice. "We believe it is some form of communication," answered. "Perhaps a warning signal to other predators, or possibly a method of echolocation, like certain Earth creatures called bats." Covered her mouth with her hand to stop herself from laughing. The cat was purring. It was just purring because it was comfortable on its little cushion. But she did not want to embarrass the instructor, so she stayed quiet. "Now," said, "I will show you the creature's file on the main screen. Please observe the data we have collected." He turned away from the container and walked toward the control panel at the front of the room. As he did, one of the workers in protective suits moved closer to the glass box. The worker was nervous. His hands were shaking. He accidentally bumped into the container's locking mechanism. There was a soft click. The latch on the container's door popped open. For a moment, nothing happened. The cat's ears turned toward the sound. Its eyes opened slowly. It lifted its head and looked at the door with curiosity. Then it stood up, stretched its body in a long, graceful arc, and pushed the door open with its nose. The screaming started immediately. Students ran in every direction. They crashed into each other, fell over seats, and piled up against the locked exit doors, made a sound like a broken whistle, and pressed every alarm button he could find. Red lights began to flash. A loud siren filled the air. "Containment breach," a computer voice announced. "Category 9 biological hazard. All personnel evacuate immediately." The cat stepped out of its container and sat down on the floor. It looked around at all the chaos with an expression of mild interest. Then it began to lick its paw again. "Nobody move," shouted, though he himself was backing toward the wall as fast as his 6 legs could carry him. "Any sudden movement will trigger its hunting instincts." The students froze in place. Some of them were crying. Who had just woken up from fainting, fainted again. In the middle of all this panic, Park stood up from her seat. Cadet Park screamed, "What are you doing? Stay still." But did not listen. She walked down the steps between the seats, moving slowly and calmly. Her footsteps were the only sound besides the alarm. The other students watched her with a mixture of horror and awe. The human was approaching the apex predator. She was walking towards certain death. She was either the bravest person they had ever seen or the most insane. Reached the bottom of the stairs and knelt down on the floor. She was now at the same level as the cat. She held out her hand, palm down, fingers slightly curled. "Here, kitty kitty," she said in a soft, gentle voice. "Hey there, little one. Are you scared? All these loud noises must be so confusing for you." The cat's ears moved forward. It tilted its head to one side, studying this strange creature that was not running away. "It's okay," continued. "I'm not going to hurt you. Come here, baby, come say hello." The cat stood up and began to walk toward her. Its tail was held high, swaying slightly from side to side. "Cadet Park's voice was now a high-pitched squeak. "It is approaching in hunting posture. The raised tail indicates it is preparing to pounce. Do not move, do not." Reached out and scooped the cat into her arms. The room went completely silent except for the alarm. Every eye was on the human and the deadly predator she now held against her chest. The cat looked up its face. She looked down at the cat's face. For a long moment they just stared at each other. Then the cat bumped its head against her chin and began to purr louder than before. "Oh, you sweet baby," cooed. "You're just a little sweetheart, aren't you? Yes, you are, yes, you are." She scratched behind the cat's ears. The cat's eyes closed halfway in obvious pleasure. Its paws kneaded against her arm in a rhythmic motion. "The creature is attacking her," a student screamed. "No, no," said, still using her gentle voice. "He's making biscuits. It's something cats do when they're happy. My cat back home used to do this all the time." The students looked at each other in confusion. Making biscuits, happy. These words did not match anything in their understanding of apex predators. Approached very slowly, his whole body trembling. "Cadet Park, please explain what is happening. Why is the creature not killing you?" Looked up at her instructor with a warm smile. "Because he's a cat, sir, a domestic cat. Humans have lived with these animals for thousands of years. They're our friends." She held up the purring orange ball of fur. "His name is going to be, it means butterfly in my language, and I think I'm going to keep him." The alarm continued to blare. The red lights continued to flash. And in Park's arms, the cat continued to purr, completely unaware that he had just turned the entire Galactic Union Academy upside down. Security Chief ran through the corridors of the Academy with his team of 12 soldiers behind him. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed to stop the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Himself was a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious face that rarely smiled. He had served in 3 different wars and had seen things that would give most people nightmares. But today, he was responding to something worse than war. A Category 9 biological hazard had escaped containment. An apex predator from Earth was loose in the Academy. "Sir," one of his soldiers said through the communication system in their helmets, "the creature was last seen in Observation Room 7. All students are trapped inside." "How many casualties?" asked. "Unknown, sir. We lost communication with Instructor after he activated the alarm." His jaw tightened. He had read the files on Earth creatures. He knew what they could do. If that predator had gotten loose among defenseless students, the scene they would find might be too horrible to describe. They reached the observation room doors, raised his fist, signaling his team to stop. They took positions on either side of the entrance, weapons ready. "On my mark," said quietly, 3, 2, 1, go." The doors slid open. The team rushed in with their weapons raised. And then they stopped. The scene inside was nothing like what they expected. Yes, there was chaos. Students were huddled in corners, some crying, some unconscious. Instructor was pressed against the far wall, making small clicking sounds of distress. There was a bad smell in the air from fear response. But in the middle of the room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, was a human female. She was young, probably in her early 20s. She was smiling, and in her lap was the apex predator. The creature was lying on its back with its legs in the air. Its eyes were closed. Its body was vibrating with a strange rumbling sound, and the human was rubbing its stomach. blinked several times. His brain could not understand what he was seeing. Chief Instructor rushed forward, nearly tripping over his own legs. "Thank the stars you are here. The creature has somehow taken control of Cadet Park. She is under some form of mind control. You must save her." Looked at the human girl. She did not look like someone under mind control. She looked like someone who was very, very happy. "Cadet," he said carefully, keeping his weapon pointed at the creature, "please remain calm. We are going to attempt a precision extraction. Try not to make any sudden movements." The girl looked up at him with an expression of confusion. "Extraction? Why would you extract him? He's so comfortable." "Him?" "The cat." She held up the orange creature slightly. It made a small sound of complaint at being disturbed, then settled back into her lap. "I named him. Isn't he beautiful?" Stared at her, he stared at the creature. He stared at her again. "Cadet Park," he said slowly, "that creature is classified as an extreme biological hazard. It cannot simply be named and kept like a pet." "But that's exactly what he is," said. "A pet. Humans have had cats as pets for thousands of years. They live in our houses. They sleep in our beds. We feed them and take care of them and love them." There was a long silence. The soldiers looked at each other with uncertainty. This was not in any of their training manuals. "You sleep," one soldier said, "with apex predators." "They're cats," repeated as if this explained everything. "They're soft and warm and they purr when they're happy. Listen." She scratched under the chin. The purring sound grew louder, filling the quiet room. "What is that noise?" asked. "Purring? It means he's content. It's actually been proven to have healing properties. The frequency of a cat's purr can help bones heal faster and reduce stress in humans." "The predator heals you?" a soldier asked in disbelief. "Well, sort of. It's complicated. But yes, basically, cats make humans healthier and happier," smiled down at. "They're wonderful companions. I had a cat named Machi when I was a child. She slept on my pillow every night and followed me everywhere I went." Slowly lowered his weapon. Something in him was changing. He was looking at the creature with different eyes now. It was small. It was soft. It was making that strange, rumbling sound that was oddly pleasant to hear. "Sir," one of his soldiers said, "what are your orders?" Was quiet for a moment. He watched the human girl stroke the creature's fur. He watched the creature's small paws knead the air. He watched its tail curl with contentment. "Stand down," he finally said. "Lower your weapons." "But sir—" "I said stand down." Took off his helmet and crouched down near and the cat. He was close enough now to see the creature's face clearly. Its eyes opened and looked at him. They were green like summer leaves. "Can I?" started, then stopped. He felt strangely nervous. "Can I touch it?" Smile grew wider. "Of course, just hold out your hand first. Let him smell you." Extended his hand slowly. The cat sniffed his fingers. Then, to his amazement, it pressed its head against his palm. The fur was incredibly soft, softer than anything he had ever touched, and the vibration of the purring traveled through his skin and into his bones. "Oh," said quietly. It was the only word he could manage. Behind him, his soldiers watched in stunned silence as their battle-hardened leader, the man who had faced death 100 times without fear, gently petted an orange cat and made a face like a child who had just discovered something magical. The galaxy, it seemed, was full of surprises. 3 weeks after the incident at the Academy, the Galactic Union's Scientific Council held an emergency meeting. The council chamber was a massive room shaped like a dome, with seats arranged in rising circles around a central platform. Representatives from over 200 species had gathered to discuss what everyone was calling the Earth predator problem. Doctor stood on the central platform, waiting for the noise to die down. She was a human scientist, one of the few who worked for the Galactic Union. She had gray hair that she kept in a neat bun, glasses that sat on her nose, and a calm expression that suggested she had dealt with alien confusion many times before. Behind her, a large holographic screen displayed images of cats, hundreds of cats, orange cats, black cats, white cats, striped cats, fluffy cats, and hairless cats. Some were sleeping, some were playing, some were knocking objects off tables for no apparent reason. "Thank you all for coming," Doctor began. "I understand there has been significant concern regarding the creature recently recovered from human space. I am here to provide clarification and, hopefully, some peace of mind." A council member named raised one of her tentacles. She was a cephalopod creature, like an octopus with too many arms. "Doctor, our records clearly show that this species has caused the extinction of over 40 other species on Earth. How can you possibly tell us it is not dangerous?" "Ah, yes," Doctor nodded. "That statistic is accurate. Cats have indeed contributed to the extinction of many species, particularly birds and small mammals. But these were extinctions that occurred over thousands of years, primarily through hunting behavior. To humans, this does not make cats dangerous. It makes them effective pest controllers." "Pest controllers," another council member repeated. "Yes, humans originally welcomed cats into their communities because cats killed mice and rats. These small rodents would eat our food supplies and spread diseases. Cats eliminated them. In exchange, we gave cats shelter, food, and affection. It was a mutually beneficial relationship." Doctor pressed a button and the holographic display changed. Now it showed images of cats living with humans, a cat sleeping on a bed, a cat sitting on a human's shoulder, a cat being carried like a baby, a cat wearing a small hat and looking annoyed about it. "Over time," Doctor continued, "cats became more than just useful animals. They became companions, family members, friends. Today, there are over 600 million domestic cats living with humans across Earth and human colony worlds." The chamber erupted in sounds of disbelief and horror. 600 million apex predators," council member gasped. He was a small, furry creature who looked like a cross between a hamster and a pine cone. "Living in your homes." "Yes, and also dogs." "What is a dog?" Doctor smiled. "Perhaps we should discuss that another day. But to give you a brief idea, dogs are descended from wolves. Wolves are pack hunters that can bring down prey many times their own size. Humans domesticated them approximately 15,000 years ago." Fainted, several assistants rushed to help him. "My point," Doctor said, stepping over the chaos, "is that humans have a long history of forming bonds with creatures that other species might consider dangerous. We do not see this as strange. We see it as natural. We are a social species. We form connections. Sometimes those connections are with our own kind. Sometimes they are with beings very different from ourselves." She changed the display again. This time it showed video footage from the academy. Park sat in a garden area with the cat on her lap. Several alien students sat nearby, watching with fascination as the cat played with a dangling piece of string. "This footage was recorded yesterday," Doctor said. "As you can see, Cadet Park has been teaching her classmates about cat behavior. Several students have even begun interacting with the animal directly." The video showed a nervous-looking crystalline student reaching out to touch fur. When the cat did not attack, the student made a sound of pure joy. "We recommend," Doctor concluded, "that the species known as be reclassified from Category 9 biological hazard to Category 2 companion animal. The creature poses no threat to galactic civilization. In fact, based on our observations, exposure to cats may have psychological benefits for many species. The purring frequency appears to have a calming effect on several types of nervous systems." Raised her tentacle again. "And you are certain they will not try to kill us?" "Council member, I cannot promise that a cat will never scratch you. They are living creatures with their own personalities and boundaries. But I can promise you this. If you treat a cat with kindness and respect, You will gain a loyal friend who will sit on your important documents, knock your belongings onto the floor, and ignore you completely when you call their name. There was confused silence. That does not sound like friendship, said. Doctor laughed. Trust me, it is. You will understand when you experience it yourself. There is nothing quite like being chosen by a cat. When they decide they love you, you will feel like the most special being in the universe. She looked around the chamber at all the uncertain alien faces. Give them a chance, she said softly. You might be surprised at how much love such a small predator can hold in its heart. The council voted that afternoon. By a margin of 147 to 53, cats were officially reclassified as companion animals. It was the first of many changes to come. 6 months had passed since the cat had escaped from his containment unit and changed everything at the Galactic Union Academy. Spring had come to the station, or at least what the environmental systems called spring. The artificial sunlight was warmer. The garden domes were full of flowers, and everywhere you looked, there were signs that something wonderful had happened. Park walked through the main corridor of the academy with riding on her shoulder. This had become normal now. Students no longer screamed or ran away when they saw the cat. Instead, they waved and smiled. Some even stopped to say hello. Good morning, Cadet Park, a student named said as he passed by. Good morning. Meowed in response, which made his whole body ripple with happiness. Smiled and continued walking. She was on her way to the lecture hall, where she had been asked to give another presentation about Earth animals. These lectures had become very popular. Students came from all over the station to hear about the strange and wonderful creatures that lived on humanities. Today's topic was going to be dogs, which meant there would probably be more fainting. She passed by the observation room where everything had started. Through the window, she could see Instructor teaching a new class of students. He looked different now, more relaxed. There was even a small cat bed in the corner of the room, just in case wanted to visit during lessons. Had changed more than anyone expected. After weeks of watching interact with, he had finally worked up the courage to pet the cat himself. The experience had affected him deeply. He now included a special section in his curriculum about human-animal bonds, teaching students that not everything from a was deadly. Reached the lecture hall and found it already full. Hundreds of students sat in the curved rows of seats, their various eyes and sensors all focused on the stage. She climbed the steps and stood behind the podium. Thank you all for coming, she said. Before we begin today's lecture, I have a special announcement. Starting next month, the Academy will be opening an Earth Animals Education Center. We will have cats, dogs, rabbits, and several other species available for supervised interaction. The room exploded with excited sounds. Tentacles waved, wings fluttered. Someone in the back made a high-pitched squeal that probably broke a few glasses somewhere. However, continued, raising her hand for quiet, I need to prepare you for something important. Earth animals require patience and understanding. They are not toys or objects. They are living beings with feelings and needs. If you want to interact with them, you must learn to respect their boundaries. A student raised a claw. Cadet Park, what happens if a cat scratches us? Then you learn that you did something the cat did not like, and you do not do it again. Smiled. Part of loving an animal is accepting that they have their own personalities. For example, does not like having his tail touched. I learned this the hard way. She held up her hand, showing a faint scar on her finger. But I do not love him any less because of it. In fact, I respect him more. He told me clearly what he did not want, and I listened. That is what good relationships are built on: communication and respect. After the lecture, gathered her things and headed to her quarters. It had been a long day, and she was looking forward to a quiet evening. But when she opened her door, she found she already had a visitor. Security Chief sat on her small couch with curled up in his lap. He was still wearing his uniform, but his serious expression had softened. His hand moved slowly across the cat's fur, and his eyes had a faraway look. "Chief," said with a knowing smile, "another security inspection." Looked up, and for a moment he seemed embarrassed, but then he shrugged. The creature required monitoring, standard protocol. "Standard protocol," repeated, sitting down next to him. "Is that why you've been here every evening for the past 3 weeks?" He was quiet for a moment. Then very softly he said, "I submitted a request to acquire a cat for the security team, for official purposes." "Official purposes?" "Yes, they are excellent at detecting unusual activity. Very alert, very watchful." He scratched behind his ears. "Also they are warm and soft. These are tactical advantages." Laughed. "Tactical advantages, of course." They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside the window, stars filled the darkness like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there were millions of worlds, each with their own creatures and wonders. But right here in this small room, everything felt peaceful and complete. Stretched and yawned, showing his tiny teeth. Then he climbed from his laptus, circled twice, and curled into a ball. Within seconds he was asleep and purring. "You know," said quietly, "when I first came to this station, I thought I had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. I had traveled to dozens of worlds. I had met hundreds of species, but I never expected this." "Expected what?" "That a small orange creature from a would teach me something new about the universe." He looked at with an expression that was almost gentle. "About connection, about trust, about how something small can change everything." Reached over and put her hand on his arm. "That's what Earth animals do. They remind us that we are not alone, that no matter how big the universe is, there is always room for love." Purred louder, as if agreeing. Outside, the station continued its slow rotation through the endless night. Ships came and went, carrying beings from every corner of known space. And in the months and years that followed, many of those beings would learn what and had learned, that sometimes the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy are also the most loving, and that a small predator with soft fur and a loud purr could bridge the gap between worlds. The universe was vast and strange and full of wonders, but some of the greatest wonders, they discovered, had been there all along, waiting to be understood. All you had to do was reach out your hand and say, "Here, kitty kitty."